Matt Cook here with Jonathan Green. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about, let's say that you're going to go out with a girl and it turns out she has a kid. How do you, you know, end things before it starts? How do you be a man that's desired, the woman wants? What if you're not getting dates and you think it's because you're fat, ugly, unattractive? What do you do then? How do you fix that? We're going to show you. Let's say you like somebody, but other people don't, and everybody's making fun of you for going out with her. Girlfriend ghosts me. What do I do? What happened? Show you that. You get this message a lot. Hey, I really enjoyed our time, but I don't feel any chemistry between us. How do you turn that around? And how do you ask a girl out? I'm going to show you a very common mistake that men make asking girls out. And meanwhile, my name's Matt Cook. I've been coaching over 40,000 men. I have a newsletter with 800,000 subscribers. I've been quoted on several million websites and been interviewed by ABC News. Jonathan Green has been a world famous dating coach, one of the most successful dating coaches in the world. He has since retired, living on a faraway tropical island. And both of us have very successful relationships, and we will tell you exactly how to do it if that's what you want. Meanwhile, since if you're new here, and even if you've been here a while, what I need you to do, please, right now, can you please hit the like, because that's really important to tell the YouTube algorithm that they should be showing this video to more people, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you'll be getting notices so you can have fun videos to watch wherever you are at that moment. All right, so let's get right into this, Jonathan. This is a question that we've got a bunch of questions that came in. So can I start with the first one here?
Yeah, fire away.
So texting this person, and she's got kids, and it's like I'm off guard. Like, what do I do? How do I turn her down at this point? What do you think about that? And then he said his profile says that he's open to kids, but he doesn't really feel like he's open to kids. Is that an issue that he can fix? Can he go out with her? Is that just done?
I mean, why would you say you're open to kids if you're not? Like, that one kind of throws me off. It's reminds me of, I was working with a student one time, and he started kissing a woman who I was so shocked. She was very heavy and a lot older than him. And I said, "Oh, that's your type?" He goes, "No, she's disgusting, but practice is practice." And I realized that sometimes people think casting a net for fish you don't want means maybe one you want will get caught in there. It's like throwing out a net and catching a bunch of dolphins and hoping there's a non-dolphin in there. So that's why this person put "I'm open to kids" in their profile, because they don't want to seem like they're closed-minded.
Okay, I think it's a different thing. I think he put it in there because he wants to seem like a nice guy. Nice guys like, pets and children. I think he's trying to be accommodating. He doesn't really want someone with kids, but he thinks it makes him look like he's nice.
Yeah. So maybe he wants to look like he's nice, or maybe he wants to exactly catch a little bit wider net. So women who want to have kids but don't have one yet. That's what he really means by it, because maybe what he means is I'm open to having kids with you, but not you already having kids. So it's exactly that. He's in the gray area where he doesn't want to admit kids are gross. And that's okay. Very few people do admit they don't like kids. And when they do, it's always strange. It always sounds strange to us, even though it's fine. So I think the most important thing is to just, if you don't want people to know, then you can't tell this person that's the reason, right? Because they're going to go to your profile says you're into kids. You can just go with the classic strategy. Like, the most common strategy right now for breakups, I think, is the ghosting, where you just stop returning their messages. It's not cool, but you can just say, "You know what, I don't think this is working out." You're just texting someone. It's a low friction. Like, waiting 3 days to respond is even crazier. Like, I have to ask someone a question, wait, and then tell them. I don't think it's a big deal. You haven't gone on a date with the person. You're just in, I forget what it's called, the talking phase or the pre-talking phase, like we haven't met yet phase. It's not real. So
no, it's nothing at all. It's not even an issue. See, that tells me that this is a guy trying to be super nice, because he actually thinks this is a problem, which it is not. I went out with a girl. She was like 10 years older than me, and she had like 3 kids. And like, I was a kid, basically. I felt like I was a kid. And it was so weird dating her. So weird. And I finally just didn't, just stopped, because I wasn't mature enough to handle that at all at the time. So that brings me to another question here. This is a good one, and it kind of is, you just alluded to it. My girlfriend suddenly ghosted me. Well, we had a couple like this. Let me do this one. Okay, 2 dates. She sends me this like, I had a great time getting to know you. I really like you. You're a great guy. Really cool. You know, I respect you, but I just don't feel there's chemistry. So good luck. So my thought about this is that this woman is doing perfectly. She just had 2 dates with the guy. She doesn't want to see him anymore. She doesn't feel like there's anything. And so she just tells him that. She doesn't owe him a phone call or anything else, really. And that's a nice thing to do instead of just ignoring him or blocking his texts and just not ghosting him completely. So I feel like this was a very, very good way that this woman handled it. And if it's a guy, you're a guy and you don't want to go out with a girl after 1 or 2 dates, you just tell her that on a text, I'm fine with that. What do we owe anybody for beyond that? I mean, if you've been out for 6 months or you've had a sexual relationship, it's a different story. I think a call or a talk is probably really, really nice. I look at it the same way I look at firing people. I have a bunch of people that work for us, and I have to fire people probably every, I don't know, every month there's somebody that has to go, and we hire people. And if they've been with me for a few days, I would send them a text. But if they've been with us a few months, I would talk to them and tell them what the story is as a courtesy. So that's my thought, is that this was a very classy, it's not a breakup. It's beyond, before that. What's wrong with that? The guy was upset about it. What do you think? Don't you think that that's a cool way that she did it?
So we're so afraid of confrontation that we're always looking for what's the most non-confrontational way. That's why a lot of people do ghosting, because they're hiding confrontation. But then you're constantly afraid you'll run into that person, right? You've planted like something dangerous, like you've kind of avoided a small thing now to have a big thing later if you run into them. So I do think it's better to end it. And I'll tell you, the best time, I applied for a job once, and this is what they sent to me. It was amazing. They go, listen, if we were hiring 2 people, you would have been the second hire. But unfortunately, we're only hiring one. And I was like, that's a good one. That's such a good way of saying it. And I was so impressed by that, right? It's such a good way of saying it. So when you let people know it's over, and it doesn't have to, some people like to have a big conversation. What I like to say when I'm ending something is, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Which is like, for me, it's like a smile and a middle finger at the same time. Like, I say that whenever I don't want to do business with someone anymore. And something
Well, that's definitely a business thing. Yeah. But that's not really a.
Well, you modify it and say, listen, there's something I think you're amazing and you're going to be perfect for someone else. I wish it was me, but there's just something missing between us, and I don't want to prevent you from finding your true love by wasting your time. I really wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Now, I will also tell you this: many, many times, I have talked to so many men and women in the coaching and the things that we've been doing over the years, and couples, and it's very common for one of them to feel like they didn't have chemistry with the other one, and weirdly enough, somehow they gave it another chance or 2 more chances, and then they've been together for years and just can't get enough of each other. So I've seen that a lot. He'll say, she was never somebody that was my type. I had no interest in her. And somehow they end up going out anyway. Or maybe they were hanging together in a small group of people that were friends, and they ended up going out. They weren't attracted to each other. But really everything turned out really well. So I don't really know that you should emphasize, this is another topic, but I don't think you should just really rely on just like initial impressions of chemistry. I think it's a mistake. I really think probably 2 dates is okay, but maybe even 3 dates before you just write off somebody. Because I've just seen too many cases where people gave the other person a chance and they were really glad that they did. And there's way too much emphasis on initial chemistry and initial attraction. I think it's a big mistake.
That's interesting, because I was thinking today about how people, especially in the West, we always give up too soon. Like, there are so many people who they're 30, they've already had 2 or 3 divorces, and I forget what it was, I saw someone talking today, they're like, I've had 5 divorces. It means I thought I was in love 5 times, is what he said. I was like,
5.
what a way to say it.
I don't understand.
And we think I think we just have this really romanticized view of love and relationships and what what a marriage is. It's nothing like real life. I feel like everything Hollywood describes a movie as is completely wrong. They make it sound like you should always be happy. They make it sound like you should always be easy. They make it sound like you should always be 100% horny for each other and attracted to each other, and that there's no lows. And then you get into a relationship. And I think, to me, marriage is much more closer to No Exit by Sartre. It's really
What's that? What is that?
okay. It's this amazing play. It's really short. He's this French philosopher or whatever, but he wrote a lot of stuff. And No Exit, his definition of hell is three people in a love triangle trapped in a room together where the lights never go off and they can't close their eyes. So they're always awake. So it's a man and two women. He likes woman A, she likes woman B likes him. And it's three people like trying to navigate that nightmare of you can't leave the room, you can't close your eyes, you can't go to sleep. It just never it's being trapped in that situation. So hell is being trapped with someone you hate. And so that's not exactly marriage isn't that bad, but it's a lot closer to that than in my opinion because you're trapped together. Marriage is really you're trapped together on a journey with someone, and a lot of people, it's like who told you life would be fair? It's like who told you that marriage would be easy or happy all the time? It's not that. It's just if instead of that being your expectations, I'm looking for someone who is just going to be my partner through good and bad and knows we're going to have times where I think it's being trapped in a room with someone you like at least 10% hate. There's no way my wife doesn't a little bit hate me like that. Just I can't imagine that. It's just the love overwhelms it. The love and the commitment overwhelms those moments because you're going to have moments where you say the wrong thing or you get into fights, you have disagreements, or just like things are really stressful.
Oh, I tell you what, man. I have noticed my love for my wife changes all the time. So much. Sometimes it's incredible. Sometimes I see her very critically. It reminds me of this very famous quote from Mark Twain. Do you remember that he says something like, when I was a boy at 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have him around, but when I got to 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. I see my wife sometimes it's like changes all the time, and I've noticed that a lot of it is very hormonal. It will depend on like my own sexual charge at the moment, I would just say. I've been experimenting a lot with this, especially like post ejaculatory thing. I would see her more critically. I don't know if I would say I don't love her as much, but in a way it is that way. But I've sort of found that so much of it is tied into sexual energy and changes all the time. And you can't possibly understand a relationship if you think it's all the same. I love her a lot. I love her a little. I don't love her. I love her a lot. I love her a lot. I don't really love her that much. I think you're saying something similar, right?
Yeah, it's like that song, you say it best when you say nothing at all. Like the less you talk, the more I love you. There's this thing it took me a long time to understand this. You know how women like to watch movies that make them cry and men, we really don't?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I finally
I
learned
don't.
this lesson. Let me know what you think about this is that we see emotions as on a spectrum of good to bad or positive to negative. Women see emotions as different colors from the rainbow. So they're like, well, I want to paint with all the colors. Even though I don't use brown that often, I want to use it sometimes. So I kind of think of it that way is that women, right, they want to experience all of their emotions because they don't see sadness as intrinsically bad like we do. It's just another emotion. But in this case, my thought is that like we think that a marriage or a relationship should always be yellow and sunshiny. And when we think that, then when bad things happen, we go, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, so I should leave, not this is just a phase of it. Because there's been moments where, yeah, I mean, we've had really bad moments in my marriage, where we thought it was over, but we also like made a commitment. So we have this different perspective that most people do. I'm like, of course there's gonna be bad times, but you have to, if you know that's part of it, you approach it differently than if going, oh my gosh, bad times mean it's broken, right? Bad times mean there's something wrong with the machine.
It turns out there is 1 scent that a woman just can't get enough of on a man. 1 scent.
I would, if I smelled this on him, I would jump on him for sure.
I couldn't keep my hands off of him the whole night.
So what would you do if your boyfriend was wearing this cologne?
We'd have to go. I'd have to go meet him right now.
Scientists have found that the 1 scent works through the terminal nerve and may create a strong romantic response in women.
It's a sexy smell.
So I was just walking past this guy and OMG, I smelled the best thing ever.
You can't buy this 1 scent in any department store, and you can't find this 1 scent anywhere else. But I'm going to send you a full trial bottle of the 1 scent so you can try it out for yourself and see how much abundance you're getting in your life. One guy is using the 1 scent when doing his errands, like going to the grocery store, and now he's chatting up women and going home with more than just his groceries, if you know what I mean. John's wearing this 1 scent at work, and now the 2 cute young interns who have never noticed him before are both asking him out, all in the same week. Another guy is getting attractive younger women stopping him on the street, with one girl leaning in and inhaling his scent. He's already had multiple encounters with beautiful women. Mike tells me he's using this 1 scent when doing the deed. He says that women love it so much that one woman is keeping his shirt to smell during the day when she's away from him. These guys are just starting their incredible life of abundance, and I know you can too by using this 1 scent.
What do you think about that painting with the different colors?
I think you're right. Women like to experience a range of emotions. Men tend to look at bad emotions like, what can I fix? What can I change? Whereas women are settling into the emotion and want to feel the emotion. And there's a lot to be said for that approach too. There's a video that was quite interesting. And I just wanted to tell you the hook of the video. And this is that women leave, in every case, all men who care about them. And he says at the beginning, he says, no matter how long you've been in a relationship, if you really care, she's not going to be interested in you. As soon as you start to care, she loses interest in you. That's what he says. As soon as you start to care. He says that your willingness to invest in her shows that scarcity, that you need her and she wants to pull away. That's what he says. And he said this happens in a new relationship, an old relationship, doesn't matter what it is, that as soon as you commit to a woman, and give her your full undivided attention, and everything, that you put her on a pedestal. I'm reading some of the transcript here, and she'll naturally go, hey, I must be the best he can do, I must be the best. And then she starts lowering her opinion about you. And I think that that's really messed up. And there's so many people on YouTube and on influencers that are really messed up. And then people love watching them because their own situation is all messed up. And they go, oh, see, he feels the same way I do. It's like loser, loser. I'm just going to be blunt about it. I think it's very toxic.
I don't know. I think that it's like the first phase of knowledge. I think this is a very common phase when men get into dating, that you first become aware of reality, and so then you start to think, oh, this is really negative. And what's happening is it's just a phase of learning. I went through that phase too. I used to think that when you're in a relationship, it's like a negotiation. Whoever's more willing to walk around the table is going to win the relationship. So as soon as you like your partner too much, you become 100% invested if they're only 30% invested. But he also probably hasn't experienced a long-term relationship. That's someone who's only experienced short-term relationships. So that's his data set. Now, I do believe there's a variation on this. What he actually means, my thought, let me really think of this, is that what men tend to do is once we find a partner, we sometimes close off all the other areas of our life so that we give up our hobbies, we give up our motorcycle, we give up the things that she was attracted to. So that's a variation of this, which is like you cut your hair, you stop being a rebel, you become you leave the biker gang, and then you're like a tamed man. That variation is. So I think it's very important to continue to be attractive as a man. So one of the things that I do I will sometimes, this is one of my classic moves, this is one of the most classic moves. When we're going down the road, I'll wave at beautiful women. They're never when they're looking at me. And my wife will turn around and go, how do you know her? And it's planting a little bit of a seed to let her know, hey, listen, I'm still attracted. Other people still find me attractive. So this is one of the things that I do. And even now my kids will look around and go, who are you? Sometimes I'll do it, there's no one on the road at all. And that's when they get really confused. Like, who are you waving to? My kids will look, my wife will look. And you just plant this seed that I'm still attractive, right? That people are looking. And sometimes it's like, why does everyone keep looking at me? Maybe we need to go somewhere else because, like, why does that woman keep winking at me? And stuff like that. And it sounds a little bit silly, but you want to remind, I think you don't want her to think no one else has attracted you anymore. Like you've lost your danger or you've lost your attractive element. I think that's important. But this idea that you can never be in love or never be 100% about a person, it's in the early phases of a relationship. If you do it too soon, this is what guys do too soon, which you talk about, which is,
Yes.
hey, we went on one date, so I bought her a car. That's very much a common mistake that guys make. So that's the data he's using where he's a lot of proof, which is that if you give a lot of value, and this can be time, money, attention, help a woman before you've slept together, women will misinterpret that as weakness. I remember I forget what it was. Someone asked me something the first time we met. I was like, oh, I know someone that might be able to help you. And I wasn't interested in her at all, but I saw the look of disgust on her face as soon as she's like, oh my God, this guy will help me, even though we haven't slept together. I don't respect him anymore. Women
Well, why should she? Why should she?
That way, and we forget that. So kindness, this is something I deal with a lot with men and women. People often misinterpret kindness or quietness as weakness. And when you overly invest early on, especially if a woman is dating like a bunch of guys and you're the one who falls in love too soon, it's very unattractive. And it's very tricky because you can accidentally extinguish the spark of attraction she had by you overly loving, because then she doesn't have the space to fall in love with you. Women and men fall in love when we're apart, when we're not together. It's when you, after you go out with someone, it's the afterwards when you have time to miss them and kind of think, oh, I think about this person when we're not together. That's really where attraction gets strong. It's not when you're actually together in the moment, because it's very easy in the moment to feel short-term emotions. You feel a lot of those short-term emotions that can really fade away fast. It's the afterwards when you're talking to your friends about it, when a woman goes, you know what? I did have a really good time with him. That's when attraction.
Well, I keep thinking about him. She keeps thinking about you afterwards.
But
And then she kind of feels like, oh, there's something special about him, you know? I think that everything is looked at, women look at things this way, and men should look at it more as a series of tests. You know, you can give a bit, and then you can wait to see if there's reciprocity or what the response is, and you could read her language. Things should be sort of a series of tests. It's just the way it is. You don't want to invest a whole lot in somebody until they've met certain tests that you put out.
Well, now you're onto something. So
How long do you want to live? How long does any of us have to live? I spent 25 years figuring out a way that we can live decades longer than otherwise. I traveled the world, interviewed scientists, interviewed old people. There are people 100, 110, or 120 living happy, fulfilling lives, having romance in their life, having a wonderful life, doing active things. You're not hearing about those people. So why would you limit yourself? Why would you limit yourself to 70 or 80 years and being sick and ending up in a nursing home and all the dementia and all the issues that we all have? Why limit yourself? I personally believe that I'm going to live to 120. And that's why I wrote the book Healthy to 120. Based on my 25 years of research, I found one single thing that I think makes all the difference. Now, there's lots of other things that matter, but there's one thing that makes all the difference. This one thing. I found this one food that people living to 100, 110, or 120 eat all the time, and that all the so-called experts are not eating, and they'll tell you it's bad. It's the devil. This is the bad food. Look at people like Robert Atkins. Robert Atkins in his 70s. Now, people say, oh, he slipped on ice, Matt. Yeah, he slipped on ice, but he had a heart attack. He had hardening the arteries. He was obese. Look it up. Yoel Gibbons, young. Nathan Pritikin, young. All these people, they young because they're avoiding this one food. I think this one food is the key to my extending my life decades longer. If you want to do that, get my book. You can spend about $30 on Amazon to buy it, or you can get it from me and it's free. I'll send it to you. Just help me out with shipping if you can. So let me tell you some of what's in the book. Blood sugar. Blood sugar is super, super important. I discovered that these very, very old men have perfect blood sugar. Mine was high. So I started doing what they're doing. I adjusted a little bit, like a tweak in how I have breakfast now. And my blood sugar is like 80, 85, 90 when I wake up every day, which is really good. I put that on page 276. Then there's fitness and exercise. None of these men work out in a gym, but they're super fit. I wanted to be fit. So what I did is I looked at what they do to stay active, and I found like a 10-minute routine, an activity I do every day, and I'm really fit, and I don't have to worry about setting foot in the gym. That's on page 316. Prostate health is key to men. Without it, we're sunk. These men have no pee problems, and I was having those problems. So I looked at what they do and their diet and all these sort of things, and I came up with this, I'll just call it a tapping, 90-second tapping thing, keeping my prostate great, no more pee problems. Instead of getting up 3 times a night, I don't get up at all. My wife Jody gets to sleep, and we're much happier this way. Page 101. So let's take cholesterol. You know how a lot of guys worry so much about cholesterol? Well, these men virtually all have perfect cholesterol, and I think it's because their metabolic rate is high, and when your metabolic rate is high, you have good normal cholesterol. So I figured out a way to maintain my metabolic rate. My cholesterol numbers are outstanding. My doctor said, you don't need to take anything. I don't know what you're doing, just keep doing it. I put that on page 162. So let's talk about weight. None of these men are fat, but none of them are on a diet either. They're eating the one food, remember. And I did a little bit of tweaking with the one food, and I was able to lose 38 pounds. I went from about 225 to 188. And I show you exactly what I did. No counting calories, no skipping meals, nothing like that. Super, super easy. I put that on page 250. Blood pressure is another thing. Now, blood pressure is something we don't think about. These long-lived men all have great blood pressure. I found that living at high altitude in the mountains, in the hills, helps blood pressure. But I came up with a very simple way, since I'm living on the flatlands, to have good blood pressure. Mine's 120/80 now, using an oxygen method that simulates altitude. It's real easy. It's got my blood pressure great and helped lots of other people. And I put that on page 139. So you can buy my book, Healthy 120, on Amazon for $29.95, or let me send it to you without charge. I'll just ask you if you can to help me out with the shipping. That would be super, super.
Men, let me think of this as right, that men see relationships as a series of events, and women see relationships as a sequence of events. What that means is that for a man, there's before and after we've slept together. There's single, there's in a relationship, then there's engaged, then there's married. There's these moments, and so you might look for advice or guidance at each of the moments, but in between you don't. Whereas women, that's why women buy more dating books or read more dating stuff, to like how to get a guy, how to keep a guy, how to know if a guy's cheating, how to get a guy to propose, how to plan the perfect wedding, how to keep it happy after the wedding, like maintenance. Men don't see relationships as needing maintenance because it's like, well, we're already together. I flipped the switch. We almost see it like a light switch. Like, we're in a relationship, I've already done that. And we don't as much think about, and I'm just as guilty of this, by the way. I still do this all the time. Like, I don't think about maintenance unless we're actively talking about it. So I think that that's one of the things, like you said, a series of tests where as a man, we're like,
yes.
No, I flipped the switch. Why would we don't see the events as connected, or we don't see it as like,
no, it's all a series of tests. It doesn't mean that it's over, but let's say, you wait for her to text you. You give her a few days. She doesn't text you. It says something. It says something. That's a test. Women do that all the time. Men don't do that enough. And so they overinvest too soon because they haven't intelligently tested where they're at that moment.
You mean early on, especially? Yeah.
Early on. When I moved out, by the way, I moved into my girlfriend's place. I would never have had her move into my place because my place was a huge mess. It was horrible. And when I was growing up, I had my mother to, she helped me. My room was a mess, but there was a woman that cleaned every week and all that. So I was used to this default position of being a sloppy, crappy, untidy bachelor, and that's the default for men. And so when they get in a relationship, a lot of times without thinking about it, they default to this kind of like earlier life they had where they just did whatever they wanted and someone was taking care of them. See, that's the problem right there. That's why they haven't really grown up where they're taking care of themselves completely.
Interesting.
So I have a really interesting one here, and this is one I want to talk to you about and get your opinion on. This is a guy saying, I'll tell you what I think. He says, I finally understood what being too nice means. So, there's the big 5 personality traits which are useful, and 2 of those are agreeableness and conscientiousness. And he said that being too agreeable is his problem. He said people step over you, they step over your boundaries, even your opinions. He said what made me realize this, I had a fight with a family member. And I would always be accommodating her and everything, even though, I thought that she was wrong. I finally had enough. I just stood up to myself. She was shocked. And, everyone around me is so used to me being nice that it was like a character breaking moment. And so I thought about this. I think a lot of men realize that they're too agreeable and too nice. And they don't know how to change that. They don't want to be an asshole. They don't want to be they don't want to be, have a frown and go around like a dickhead, right? So they don't know how to change that trait of being too nice. And I was mentioning the idea of the testing a moment ago about seeing relationships early on as a series of tests before you invest too much. I think that there are little things, little steps you can take to learn how to not be too nice. Little steps. And it's really important. It's not attractive, and you create a lot of resentment because when you're too agreeable and too nice, there's things you don't like, you don't say anything, and then they pile up, they pile up, they pile up. And so that day comes when you finally can't take it, like this guy describes this argument with a family member, and he just kind of blows up. That day comes, and then you blow up, and it's like, not a good way to live. You should have said where you stood all along so that she could see your boundaries and everything, and you didn't have to to have her do things you didn't like and just be quiet about it. What do you think about, and I have some ideas about how you can overcome being too nice, but don't you think that this is a huge issue with men right now?
Let me ask you a question. When you were in high school age and you talked to your parents, especially your mom, about dating, did she ever say to you, just be nice to her? Did you ever get that super common dating advice? Make sure you're nice to her.
I really have thought about this a lot. I think what we're taught as boys, we're taught to by women, just to be super nice and accommodating and agreeable. And that's the kind of advice that they give you. And sometimes they'll even say, if you're going to go on a date, bring her flowers, be really nice to her, open the door for her, like that, as if that is good advice. It's, it's this imaginary thing that women have come up with. And I think it's so toxic, and a lot of men internalize this, and they're really screwed up as they grow up because they're too agreeable. On that big 5, they're way too agreeable. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, yeah, I think that the root of it is bad advice from our parents, especially from our moms. I always love to ask this test when your parents give you dating advice. Say, here's a great chance to know why you shouldn't listen to your parents. You say to your mom and dad, hey, how should I meet my true love? What's the best place for me to meet them? And then you go, is that how you guys met? And it's never. Parents, and we all do this, we never want our kids to meet the way we did. So I understand why it happens, but it's also when you say, oh, would you say, you can even say this, if mommy says this to you, and this is hard to say, oh, when you were first dating dad, was he really nice? And it's like, no, he was a bit of a bad boy. So people will give you advice that they think is helpful, but it's not based on any evidence, right? It's based on false evidence, like movies and media. They think that's the right piece of advice. So that's where this comes from. But I do think that we've mixed up nice with weakness, right? And it's very interesting to me. An example of this is weak men will compliment everyone. They go, oh, I have to do compliments all the time. And it doesn't mean, it has no value. If I compliment you and it's rare, it's a diamond. You go, wow.
Yeah, I can tell you that I used to be this way.
Okay.
Totally was this way. And I changed completely. And I did it consciously. And I'll tell you what would happen with me is I would employ somebody and I wouldn't tell them what I was really thinking, because it was difficult for me to tell somebody negative stuff. I had real trouble telling people I wasn't happy with them. And then one day I would just fire them. And to them, it was like fired out of the blue. And I had been saying all these nice things about them. And then all of a sudden I'm firing them. I didn't know how to tell someone how they really stand so that they could change. I wasn't comfortable with telling people my true feelings about what they were doing to me and how I felt about them all along. So one day it would explode. And I think that I would call it agreeableness. It's overly agreeable. Agreeableness is a nice trait. For example, in a relationship, if your wife says, let's watch this movie on TV, it's kind of helpful if you're agreeable, truly, if you say, well, that's fine. And sometimes, you might say, I don't want to watch that, but she wants to watch it, and I like her to be happy. It makes me feel good for her to watch a program she likes, so we'll watch that movie. But if she's watching only the movies she likes, and you're not watching what you like consistently, you're going to be resentful. You're overly agreeable in that case. And I think that this is a very, very severe problem. It's because men don't want to tell a woman what they really think, including passion, including sexual desire and all of that early on. They don't want to do that. They're not comfortable with telling a woman what they really think. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true? A lot of men these days?
I think you're exactly right. I think agreeableness comes with a tax of resentment. So if you, and it pays off when you get it in two ways. Like if we watch a movie you like, then a movie I like, then it kind of evens out. The tax gets reversed. But if you are constantly doing, and this same thing, I know women, this has happened too where they're dating a guy early on. He goes, oh, I have season tickets to this sports team. Why don't you come with me? And she goes, great. I love football. And now she's stuck going to game every single week for 40 years. I know what this has happened to. And it can be even, you're lucky if it's football, because if it's basketball,
and one day she'll reveal her true feelings. He'll say, but I thought you loved football. You said you loved it, and you always wanted to go to games with me. He didn't really think it through. She wasn't honest about her emotions. It was too agreeable.
Because you're early on, you want to agree to whatever they say, not realizing, and each time you go to a game, it's a little bit harder to tell the truth. It's kind of like if you say something as a joke, like, oh, I have, whatever. You tell some type of joke, like, oh, I have this disease or I'm allergic to something, but it's a joke and they don't know you're joking. Now for the rest of your marriage, you can never eat pizza because you never make them feel bad. But that's kind of the thing, is that if you, again, we have mixed up niceness with like dishonesty. So we have this feeling of like, for a woman has to experience dating where there's no friction or she'll leave you if she can't experience. And that's not true. It's very important.
Hard edges sometimes, right?
Women will
edgy.
push. So we think that every time a woman pushes you, she should feel softness. So she always feels like, oh, I feel safe here.
Right.
But what women are actually looking for is that when your boundaries get pushed, you'll fight back, so that she knows that when someone is pushing against her boundaries, you'll defend her. That's what she's actually looking for, is that strength. So if you're agreeable to everything she asks you to do, if someone asks you guys to do something that you don't want to do, you'll put up with it. So what she's actually testing for, and this is a great example of a test, is do you have an inner strength? Women are more attracted to men. This is why women like bad boys, because they don't care about being nice. Women aren't attracted to nice, by the way. It's the worst insult. Because after the word nice, the most common word in the English language is but. He's so nice.
Well, nice is another way of being a eunuch, for a man. It's no balls.
No, I know
That's
what the
what it
word
is.
means. I think you're pretty.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
I think
it's
it's an
like you're
insult.
nice. It's like you have no balls, basically. You're a castrated person. You have no sexuality. You have no, and that's the worst. Of course, it's unattractive.
That's when you get
it's like,
those. Oh, he's just like a friend, or I'll change my clothes in front of him because I don't see him as a. Women will say things that are so
he
masculine.
doesn't have balls anyway. What difference does it make?
Yeah, he's like a Ken doll. There's nothing down there. Nothing would ever happen if he watches me change in front of him, right? And it's so degrading.
Right.
It's such a cruel thing to say about someone, but women say it so casually. And I'm sure men say it as well, but things like, oh, he's basically gay. That's another variation on that. Just a modern way of saying, she's like, oh, I'll change in front of this guy. There's no way he could have feelings for me because he's basically gay. We're just friends. He only sees me as a friend. And it's like, you look at the guy and he's like, no, that's not how I feel.
Well, that's why women like gay men friends so much, honestly.
So,
So in this case, I want to ask what the guy can do. What can someone do if you're watching and you're too nice? You know this is a problem. What can you do to fix it? And I have some ideas there. Do you have some that you could share if you thought about it?
yeah, start small fights.
Start small fights.
The best thing you can do is fight for a boundary you don't care about. There's a couple of benefits to this. The first is it gets you used to defending positions. And the second thing it does is it gives you positions that you can fall back from because it's not a core belief. So an example of this is like, if she's like, I really want to go see this movie, and you're like, listen, we agreed to see this one. Agreement is important to me. Like we made a deal, we made an agreement. Important to me is that if we make an agreement, right? Stuff like that. So there's different ways of saying it, and you don't really care that much about the movie, but you're expressing a belief and kind of defending it. But if you end up seeing the wrong movie, it's not the end of the relationship. It's
You
better.
don't have to give a reason, by the way. I had to laugh about your reason because we had an agreement. I know you could do that. Or you could just say, well, I'd really prefer to see this movie. That's all you have to do. You don't have to give the reason. Sometimes it's better not to.
I think when you're
And
starting
and I
out,
agree with you.
it's hard to just do it without giving a reason, right? It's hard to just be
Well, it is.
firm. But that's what you want to get up to is that
You need to practice this. See, that's the point, right?
Yes.
You need to practice making small decisions that are contrary to what people think that you're going to go along with. You need to kind of have a lot of little times when you're contrary to what everybody thinks you're going to do. A little bit non-agreeable. And I'll tell you one other thing is people that are very agreeable are often indecisive. They have trouble making decisions for very similar reasons. So I think that when you go to a restaurant, you start practicing where you know what you're going to order. You look at the menu for 5 seconds and then you close your menu and you order. You what are you laughing at?
because sometimes men hear that they overcalibrate and then they order for them and the woman. It's like
Well,
too far.
okay.
They go, here's what you're
Well,
having.
that's better.
You go,
It's better that way. It's better to practice that and be a little too extreme, and then you'll end up in the middle. It's
and
very
you go,
uncomfortable.
You'll
but
have the fish, I'll have the chicken. And she's like, I'm allergic to
Yeah,
fish. And you're like, I've already decided.
in the old days, they'd give her a menu that had no prices on it, and so you're the man, so they assumed you were paying.
That's funny. I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
love that.
that's true. That's true. So you need to have a series of little lines in the sand that you're drawing during the day to sort of surprise people a little bit, sort of start getting used to displeasing people slightly, because basically being agreeable is coming from when you grew up and you couldn't bear to see disappointment in your mother's face when you did something she didn't like. You grew to just hate that so much. So part of being little is attachment, where you grow attached to somebody who is your caregiver and you want to please them. That's really critical. And children who are adopted, they have to learn that, or else there's a real problem. You have to want to please your mother. Generally it's a woman. You want to please her by being a good boy. But then it backfires on you, and you're way too attached to this, not disappointing your date or your girlfriend. You can't bear to have her not happy with you. So the antidote is to make her a bit unhappy now and then. Everybody in your life a little bit unhappy by little arguments, drawing lines in the sand, being a bit contrary, getting used to seeing someone that's not that happy with you, what you want, and you do it anyway. That's the antidote. And then you learn how to do it. That's what I did. Changed me completely.
Yeah.
So now I'm very nice. Okay, I'm super nice to people, but they kind of pick up that there is, what do they call that? There's claws underneath.
Yeah, there's like a steel
That,
fist inside the velvet glove.
There's definitely a still fist over the glove. There you go. That's a very masculine image. So they don't screw around with me. They don't fuck with me. They know that I'm very nice, and I do compliment people when they're doing something nice, but I'm not complimenting them for being who they are. I'm complimenting them for something they do that I appreciate. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
It's fine to, when you meet a woman and she's very pretty, she is who she is, and you feel like complimenting her for who she is. That's okay, but you can do that way too much, and you have to start looking at her behavior. She has to be behaving in a way that pleases you. That's really critical. And so the combination of saying no and displeasing people consistently somewhat, so you get used to that and you're okay with that, and then looking at her and expecting her to behave a certain way and appreciating her for what she does, not who she is. I think that's how you really get out of the nice guy syndrome. What do you think?
I think compliments are like business cards. If you give them out all the time, they don't have any value. Like, have you ever met those people that the first thing they do, and they give you a business card before they even know what you do, if there could be any possibility of a business, and you would it's so promiscuous, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like, immediately devalues that person, because it's just
Right.
like, They might as well just fly in a helicopter over the city, throwing business cards out of it to show their worth so value. It's the same thing. If you compliment everything all the time, then your compliments don't have value because to you they're a common currency, right? You use them all the time, which is fine. But then she won't see your compliments as valuable. And I see people who they compliment people or they say nice things about that they don't believe. This is a weak man. If you never give a non-compliment, like if I never say to my wife, I don't like that outfit, well, then when I do like an outfit, it doesn't mean anything because I've complimented everything. So that's part of the calibration. One of the ways you can show the
that's a good one.
has meaning is that you don't give a comment or you say negative things about things you don't like. Because if you don't, then it really is meaningless. People don't realize that compliments from mean people are worth so much more. That's why the person who's like very quiet, the coach who never gives a compliment when they finally do it means so much, right? That's more valuable because they don't, you earned it. Whereas if the coach is like, you're great, That's why like this idea now, if you get every kid a trophy, no matter how they did, it kills the desire to be excellent, and the trophies have no meaning. That's why the kids throw away the trophies because who cares? Because it doesn't feel like I earned it. Whereas
that was a traditional role of fathers, as opposed to mothers. Mothers would compliment you for who you were, right? For just whatever you were. Like you always get affirmation from your mother but your father,
you got to earn it from dad.
You'd have to earn it. Yeah. What do you do that earns it? Was the purpose. And so many men don't have the experience of having grown up with a real father that way. Most men actually. So let's move on to another one. Do you have one that we've gotten that you want to talk about?
Yeah, this man says he needs sex. I'm 18. I'm 18-year-old female. He's a 22-year-old man. He's just, let's say he's been around quite a bit, and she's a virgin and she's saving, and they just had her first kiss. Like not her first kiss with him, her first kiss ever. And she's like, listen, I'm waiting, and he's like, well, I can only wait so long. And so she's like, well, how can this guy need sex? I don't do sex. It's part of it. And so she's kind of like,
wait a minute. She said that this girl told him that she doesn't want sex?
Yeah, she said, I meant that this sex is something that he'll definitely have to wait for. In response, he said, there's only so long he can wait because he has needs and needs sex. Well, I understand and respect that. It kind of made me feel as though building a relationship with him doesn't matter if I don't put out soon. Another thing to note is that he refuses to plan dates because he thinks they're pointless or a waste of money, that he's bad at planning them. He's never given me flowers despite my hinting that I might appreciate them, and he's late every time we have plans. I mean, like, this isn't...
So that's a very interesting point of view from a woman, actually. Seeing somebody that's rather controlling, and she doesn't want a guy that she can't really control.
Well, she's dating a bad boy and then complaining that he's a bad boy. Like, I had a friend who once said to me this, like, I would never marry a woman who slept with me on the first date. And I was like, didn't you also sleep with her on the first date? Like, I would never want to be with someone who did what I did. And this other friend of mine, which is even crazy, goes, I'm dating a stripper and it really bothers me that she's a stripper. It's like, then why are you dating a stripper? Like, instead of, you're trying to date someone and turn them into something they're not. Like, so men do this.
I wouldn't date any woman that wasn't into sex, because that's the whole point of a romantic physical relationship.
Well, she's a virgin waiting for marriage. It's not like she hid it, right? It's on the box.
Oh, there you go. I didn't catch that part.
If you put it on the label, it's, I'm a virgin, I'm waiting.
If that's the case, unless he wants the same thing, he shouldn't be going out with her. That's all. It's very simple.
Yeah, this is an easy one. All the other stuff tells you why she's dating him. He doesn't. She's like, he never plans dates. He doesn't bring you flowers. That's why she likes him, right? Women like the bad boy. She doesn't like. I guarantee you, other guys have brought her flowers, and she was like, she friend zoned him. So,
so as a man, you should plan dates. Okay, you should plan dates. I don't think the flowers thing is good.
No, but he's saying
planning dates is
they're
good.
pointless. Is a little. Yeah, that's also like she should break up when he says that stuff because that's too far.
I used to think that meeting girls was so hard. I would lay awake thinking, how am I going to get through life alone without someone to share it with? I feel like I'm missing out and running out of time. And now, suddenly, everything's changed. I'm watching this video saying there's one scent women really go crazy over.
When a guy smells good, it makes me want to snuggle up closer to him.
If I smelled this on him, I would jump on him for sure.
I couldn't keep my hands off of him the whole night.
And now that I'm using this one scent, I'm talking to women more. Women sometimes are approaching me. I'm going out more.
So I was just walking past this guy and OMG, I smelled the best thing ever.
Is on the top of the list, so, and this is killer.
This guy smells good. I don't even know what he looks like, but he smells good, and that gives me a reason to like want to talk to him.
I'm at the supermarket trying to decide which cereal I want, and this cute blonde starts talking to me. We exchange numbers, and I get that a lot. I'm not doing anything differently. I'm still dressing the same, driving the same car, telling the same dumb jokes. Imagine someone like me dating 3 different girls. Can you believe it? And it's all because of this one scent that women go crazy for.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was an
Yeah.
easy one.
Okay, here's one that I thought is pretty interesting. It's also from a woman. She said, first date, I noticed no smell,
Yeah.
but we weren't that close. Second date, it was really hot. I noticed by the end of the date, he was a little bit ripe. And anyway, it goes on. And so she doesn't like his smell at all. And she doesn't know if it's like, what the situation is with his hygiene, but she likes him. She said, there's no other issue besides this, but it's so disgusting. I'm ready to break it off.
I love this one.
So,
I love
yeah, one question I would ask is for this woman is, this is no one will ever ask this, but is she taking birth control pills? If she's taking birth control pills, that really messes up a perception of smell that a woman has from a man. What's so funny?
It's that the guy smells bad and you're like, it's her fault.
It's not her fault, but women should like the smell of a man if they like the man.
Oh.
If they don't like his smell, they shouldn't be around the guy. He's just not right for him. But I'm just saying that all that could be true, and there's certainly, we know people that have terrible smell. We know that happens.
Listen,
but I'm just saying that
as a man, this is me, the guy she's talking about. I have this situation where I have to constantly battle with bad smells. It's a part of my life. It always has been, and it's a huge thing. The first thing is, does the guy know or not know about it? Okay, that's the first thing you want to know. Now, I know. Here's the thing: it's really hard to tell. People take it really personally. I had a friend in school whose breath was so bad.
Yeah.
I finally told him. He never spoke to me again. I was like, look,
Sure.
I was like, I don't know if a rat crawled inside your mouth and died, but like your breath, it's so.
they used to have these ads on TV for mouthwash. I don't know if you remember. You're probably too young. But the idea was somebody would be working in their office. They'd open the drawer of and there'd be a Listerine or whatever it was, a bottle there, So you were supposed to leave a bottle of mouthwash anonymously for somebody who has that
I felt
problem.
like the smell was someone deeper. I was like, this is coming from your core. Like you have, like this is something like a
Well, it
deeper
could be.
level. But it's really hard because people will be we are naturally offended when people bring up our smell.
You have to do it anonymously. You do have to do it anonymously. If you do it directly, it's personal. It's terrible. I agree with you.
There's a lot of, the basic thing is that's the first thing. If he doesn't know, then it's one approach. If he does know, it's another. But you got to bring it up early. The longer you wait, like she didn't say anything the first 3 times. Now she's ready to break up. Say, listen, I like you, but you've got a situation here and we have to deal with it if we're going to stay together. And but I do want to say again, it's extreme is bad and bad smells are bad. But if you have a partner, you should like the way they smell. It's very important, or else you shouldn't be together. She's very specific.
Very, very
it's his armpits when he's sweating. She's very specific.
Right.
When he
Yeah,
sweats,
she is.
his armpits smell bad. It's not his whole body. And
she said it wasn't his private, so that's good. So he's got a little issue with that can be fixed. I'm just commenting as a greater question is that you should love the way. I remember breaking up with a girlfriend because I didn't like the way she smelled.
listen, smell is fixable. Like,
I mean, not in that case, it wasn't. I just didn't. I don't know what it was. It wasn't that she smelled bad.
I can tell you.
It just was, I didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, the idea that every man's armpits smell good, like, I wish I lived in the world you're describing because I've never met a man whose armpits smell amazing.
Not extreme. No, he needs to use some deodorant. But I'm saying that the normal level of smell of a partner should be attractive. That's what I'm saying. Not extreme, obviously.
But she's
a normal
only,
level
right.
of smell.
She's only saying when he sweats, he smells bad. So how do you do it?
I understand.
Face
yeah.
it.
So probably she needs to leave him an anonymous tip somewhere.
That's so hard to make anonymous. You have to. I mean, my wife has brought me deodorant before. She's like, let's not dance around it. Let's just put this on. So when it happens, I'm very aware of it. There's some things you can do. I'll tell you this as a practical level as a man in the summer. My uncle taught me this. My uncle was one of the toughest dock workers I ever met, and he was like, "Yeah, I shave my armpits in the summer. I don't want to smell bad." And he was so tough. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I guess that's what I do. I keep because your armpits. Here's what happens: you get sweat on your armpit, then it dries. Then the second time you sweat, that's when it smells bad. When it kind of activates the bacteria that came from the first sweat.
Yeah.
So that's why this guy smells good, but it's the second sweat. So you don't know that. But I would recommend, I would shave his armpits. Like, you want to say, listen, I like you, but this is an issue, and I want to take care of it so we can stay together. Like, let's not make it a big deal. Let's just fix it. You do that, and then,
Yeah, that's right.
and
That's
then,
right.
of course, you always talk about, I haven't tried this yet. Don't you recommend putting vodka on your armpits? Like, that can kill anything, right?
Yeah, well, vodka's good. It's not as good as really good deodorant.
Okay.
Baking soda works well. A little tiny bit of baking soda and water, and then you put it on your pits.
Yeah.
Works very, very well, and it's very safe as opposed to the aluminum-containing deodorants that are out there.
Because when
Honestly, none of the natural ones work quite as well as the ones that are
You just gotta
have all these
face it head
toxic
on.
chemicals in them.
the reason shaving
Yeah.
armpits works well is because it kind of gets rid of the root cause, which is the
Right.
sweat sticking to the hair. And it's not everyone has it,
Right.
but some people do. But you're going to have issues, especially for a man. I've had issues having to deal with. My wife's had smell issues. We both had different things we've had to deal with throughout our relationship that we've solved. But that's where you want to start, is going, first of all, if he doesn't know, then it's going to be surprised. If he does know, he's already dealing with it, and you can kind of deal with it together. But you definitely, the longer
Okay.
you wait,
So Matt's rules here are: you have to like the way each other smells. You have to like the way her pussy tastes.
oh my God.
She has to like going to, the way you are. I'm not kidding. Some women are just not good down there.
That's also fixable.
It's fixable. It can be.
No, it
Can
definitely is. For a fact, you
Okay.
change the person's diet, and what it tastes like changes.
But she may not be willing to do that or interested in that. That's all.
Well, that's a different conversation. That's exactly the same thing. Listen, I really like you, but when I go down on you, it
Exactly the
doesn't
same
taste
thing.
good. Have you considered becoming a vegetarian?
Yeah. Or whatever it is.
I mean, just cut right to it. It's like, listen, I'm going to start eating more pineapple for you. I mean, but the thing is, what's interesting is we'll get naked with people, but we won't talk to them about it.
No, it's too personal.
It's so-
Just like we had one the other few weeks ago about the girl that didn't want to be kissed. She's okay having a guy's dick in her, but she doesn't want him to kiss her. It's the same thing. It's like these weird boundaries that we have on things. Here's a good one. My girlfriend suddenly ghosted me, and she went back to her ex while she was on a trip, but now she wants to get back together with me. So they were together for 6 months, and she apparently went on a trip and decided she wanted to get back with her ex, and now she comes back and say, "Oh no," and she's crying, and now she wants to get back to me. What do I do? She's posting, my pictures on her Facebook, like how much she misses me and all of that. Oh, social media. Oh God, I don't know what to do. So here's what I would do. I would block her, unfriend her, and move on. I would never have anything in my life about that woman. She'd be complete history.
For how many of those 6 months do you think she was still sleeping with the ex-boyfriend?
Well, that's a good question. Or another boyfriend or whatever. Yeah, it's a good question.
I knew a cheater when in my 20s. This girl that I had, the one that I thought was the one, she cheated on every single guy she was ever in a relationship with. She cheated on another guy with me, and then she cheated on me with another guy. Then she reached out to me like a year later to kind of meet up when we were both in Hawaii at the same time. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're definitely asleep together because she's in a relationship with someone, so she'll be cheating on him. So people who cheat, it's a huge part. It's a huge part of who they are. Like, it was probably one of her primary personality traits. It was that much of a dominant thing where she cheated on every partner she'd ever been with, and she was always cheating, and then she would get with the guy she was cheating with, then she'd cheat on him and get with that guy. So absolutely, this is someone who did not see the error of her ways. The other guy got tired of her. The guy had a great situation. When she was with you, he had the best of both worlds, which is where he could sleep with her but not have to do the boyfriend stuff. So he was getting, I forget what the name of it is. Is it the F zone? Yeah, the F zone from her, right? Which is
I didn't hear that. I never heard that one.
the better version of the friend zone, right? For guys, it's where I just get
Yeah.
the better F,
Yeah.
but I don't have to do any of the boyfriend stuff. I just do
Yeah,
the
send her back to the boyfriend with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, if you get to
I get to sleep with her and I don't have to listen to her talk about her day at work. That's perfect. So that's what's happening. Then that guy, when she goes, hey, I broke up with my boyfriend, so I can be with you, he goes, oh, wait, hold on a second. I was looking for a mistress, not a girlfriend. What are you talking about? I don't want to be your boyfriend again. We already tried that. It didn't work. So that's what happened. And that's why she came crawling back. So this idea that sometimes women will say this thing, and guys say this too. It's like, oh, when I was cheating on you, I realized how much I love you. And it's like, that's cool. That's cool. But
Good thing.
This is a thing. If you break up with someone, I never break up like this where we're still following each other on Facebook and stuff. I don't experience that. When I break up with someone, we break up. It's over. Like you have to burn the.
I never ever would get
Regrow.
back with somebody. I would never rehire somebody I fired. I would never want to get a girl back who left me and cheated. Never, never, never.
Yeah, it's
Personally.
let it be over and go to the next one. There's so many people out there. It's not like you live in a village of 16 people and you've run out of people to date.
Well, she failed the test. Yeah, it's testing. She failed. So she's no good. So one more question here. This was a very interesting question. This is a man who never asked women out, and he goes, "Oh, I finally did it, Matt." He said, "She was sitting there. I went up to her. I go, oh, you're really pretty. I thought I'd give you my number," and he gives her his number, and she goes, "Oh, that's so sweet," And he says, "If you're interested, text me." He said, "I felt so good after. I don't think I'll ever hear from her, but it felt good to know that I tried." This is obviously a young man. He's in his 20s. You didn't try. He wimped out. You should have asked her for a date and actually gotten a date. Shouldn't have given her your number. It's horrible.
So
You have no control over anything now. So it's just a way of avoiding rejection. So you showed her that you're a guy who can't handle rejection, which is not attractive.
you're so harsh sometimes. I
know,
think that
but it's true. It's fixable.
giving a woman your number is so much better than not doing anything at all. Right? So it's a step on the path to success, which is, okay, I don't ask for women's numbers. Now I give women my number. Now I ask for their number and I take control. So as long as it's a step on the path, I'm okay with it. I see it as part of your journey, but it's never going to turn into a relationship because women are very passive daters. So the odds of a woman, unless you're super attractive, then the woman will call you, right? But otherwise, you're never going to get
Maybe,
anything out of
yeah.
it. But it's definitely, you just have to see it as it's a step on the road, but you want to spend as little time there as possible. But anyone who's moving in the right direction, I don't want to crap on, but it definitely is not where you want to be.
Yeah.
It's better than
Yeah,
not
I
asking for a
feel-
number, but it's not going to get
Yeah.
you anywhere. It's never
Well, he didn't ask her for a number.
right.
He gave her his number.
I gave for a while. I was giving women my number as an experiment to see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise ending, no one calls. Surprise result, it doesn't lead to anything. But
No, they don't call.
if it's an experimental
Too hard.
phase, which I'm hoping it is, but if this is his overall dating strategy, it's a terrible strategy. But if you're
Well,
trying
it's
stuff-
just that he feels like he accomplished something that he couldn't do before, and I'm just saying you didn't. It's fine, but now you have to ask for a girl's number. You have to talk to her and ask her for a date.
Yeah, so this is very important.
Basically.
If you create a negative response to the act of trying, this guy will never try. That's the reason most men fail at self-improvement. I took one step in the right direction, but you didn't take 100 steps, you failed. This is why everyone hates vegetarians, by the way, because they'll go, oh, you're like, oh, I'm eating healthy.
Vegan.
Yeah, but are you eating 100% healthy? And it's like, well, now I hate you because you only believe there's two settings, 0 and 100. I believe that it's important, a very important part of becoming a better person, improving as a man, is attaching positive emotion to the act of trying. So as long as someone's trying and they're on the path, going, okay, you tried, that's awesome. You should feel good about yourself because you took a step.
Well, that's fair.
Then you take the next
That's
step.
fair.
If this is overall, this is what I always do, that's terrible, right? But if this is
But I
trying to improve.
want to get you, this man, if you're here, I want you to get good at handling rejection. That's not really rejection because she doesn't even know you, but they call it rejection. I want you to get good at handling no's. That's the practice. They have a therapy called exposure therapy. This is another therapy for people that are really, really nice and trying to undo it. There are actually groups that do this. Have you heard of this? So they'll challenge the group. They'll challenge you to go up to a stranger and ask if you can give them a hug, or a kiss, or all sorts of things to get you over the hump of, that you can't do these things in public. Kind of exposure therapy. So what I want you to do is just get good at. You've tried when a girl says no, I'm not going to go out with you. I'm not giving you my number. You get used to that, and then you'll be fine because you ask girls out and you don't worry about it. They say no. That's really, to me, that's what I would have to say on it.
Yeah. The fear of rejection is so much more painful than an actual rejection, because then what actually happens, you go, oh, I thought
right.
it'd be worse. I thought it would feel worse.
Yes, that's not bad at all.
You're exactly right. Do you think it's possible to get dates when you're ugly? So here's one that came in. I'm 6'3". I grew up to the point of metrosexuality. I run 3 times a week. I have hair and skin routines. I wear high fashion. I have a niche perfume collection. He might mean nice perfume collection. I'm not sure. But it's all negative because I'm ugly. I'm not rich, and I don't have high status to compensate. I've been using 5 different apps for years, and I can't get anything except likes from bots and fake profiles. I'm 30, and because of my failings at dating, online dating. Oh, that's what OLD means, online dating. It's nuked my self-esteem and bolstered my anxiety. Even with very humble standards, I can't approach women, not at bars, concerts, festivals, art shows, etc. I tried volunteering to be more social and hasn't worked. Also because of online dating, dating has been compartmentalized, and the vast majority of women don't expect or want random men to approach them. So here we go. This is where things start to get weird, because it always takes a turn, right? There always has to be
yeah.
a pretty alternative. My physical standards are pretty low, and I prefer weird, artsy, nerdy, goth, witchy, hippie women. I can't even imagine saying to a woman, "You're like you," because
I think it's one or the other. I don't think it's a woman that's weird, artsy, nerdy, goth, witchy, and hippie. I think it's.
Oh gosh, that feels like, yeah, no, it's got to be just some of them, right? So let me see.
Yeah, right.
I'm not at all shallow, but when I go to places where women are like that it's no easier to approach them than anyone else. I just get as anxious around attractive women as I do around weird, basic, average, kind of ugly women I'm attracted to. Why don't you tell a woman that? Imagine you go, excuse me, you're kind of ugly, but I'm attracted to you.
Yeah, and you're weird and basic. And basic. It's kind of offensive.
So I'm not sure how offensive basic is. I know it's not a compliment, but I'm not sure how far down the insult tree it goes. Like, I don't know how bad it is.
I think it's generic. You're bland.
I think it might be worse.
Boring.
No, I think it might actually, because
it could be worse.
I know. I think it might be like a pretty big insult, because I never heard anyone not be offended.
So he says the women are never replying to him. Nobody finds him attractive.
Yeah.
No one gives him a shot. I thought it was interesting that you said a metrosexual, that he grooms to the point of metrosexuality. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Someone to say that about
I
themselves.
mean, he tweezes his eyebrows, right? Like, that's what that's code for. And so the guy's in shape. He's 6'3". He takes care of himself. What's going on? Here's what you do.
Okay, so
online dating.
If he wants to get women on dating apps, then he has to completely change all his pictures and his profile. Completely change it, and he probably will, because his pictures are not good and his profile's not good.
I can only imagine, because every woman says, right? All women are like, oh, I want a guy who's over 6'2". This is the guy who's literally over that height. I can't imagine, because he thinks it's just because he's ugly in the face. And it's like, that's such a irrelevancy for women. Women care so little about facial stuff.
See, he cares a great deal.
I mean, he may
about
have
his own
a face if you have a face that's half metal, maybe then it will matter. Like if you're half robot, and anything less than that, women don't care. They just don't care that much.
So he cares way too much. So he's very self-conscious. But I just have to say that if he's 6'3" and all that, he doesn't have a good dating profile. He doesn't have good dating pictures. That's if he wants to use the apps.
I mean,
he could succeed very well in the
You
apps.
have the height that women actually are sorting for. So it's like, that tells you that.
Yeah.
First, there's a couple of things. Number one, here's an idea. If online dating hasn't worked for 5 years, change it or stop doing it. If it's causing...
Don't use it. Throw out your apps. Delete them all.
So I believe, here's one of my philosophies. I believe dating is like judo. You got to get in there really close, and it's very physical. So it means that online, you can't do judo via app, right? You have to get in really close, face to face. You have to be able to smell each other's stink. And you have to be inside of each other's personal space. Even when you first meet someone, right? When you're flirting with someone, you have to be close enough to whisper. and that it's very physical. Like you have to touch their body, they have to touch yours. Like I don't think it's possible for a woman to have sex with a woman without touching her, right? So touching is part of the relationship. So this guy's using basically all of this stuff is like, oh, women don't want to be approached more because of the apps, but then the apps don't work. Here's an idea. The app is causing you to have this really low self-esteem, which is causing all these other beliefs. The app is the reason he thinks he's ugly. And there's such a good chance that he's not ugly, right? There's such a good chance that it's all in his head. And that's where most dating happens. Women and men have different problems with dating. Dating for women has a bunch of really tough stuff about it. But dating for men, it's mostly in your head. You have to fight the battle inside your brain of, I'm good enough, I'm attractive. So he's saying over and over again, I'm ugly, or I'm low attractive, or I'm attracted to ugly women. All of these thoughts in your head. If you walk up to a woman and you're flirting with her because you like her, but in the back of your head thinking, I like her, but she's ugly, she will sense that. And she won't like it. Nobody would. That's not something anyone wants to hear. It's like, oh, you're ugly, but I still like you because you kind of remind me of a witch. And she's like, this isn't getting better. But also, you remind me of a goth. It's like I don't think goths exist anymore. They did when I was in high school, but I think everyone who was into goth stopped. I don't see people wearing goth stuff anymore. I never don't. In high school, I had a lot of friends with like a lot of rings that were goth, like the rings that last your whole finger, and they were like.
Oh, you know what's replaced goth?
Emo,
I hate to say it, but
right?
trans has replaced goth.
Oh, that's interesting. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you're right. Goth used to be like, I'm really into vampires. I don't think anyone's really into vampires anymore like that, but it was like, I'm really into vampires and like 18th century poetry and wearing clothes that are made out of velvet.
And there was a group of guys that were women and men, boys, girls that were goth. So you were in a group.
Yeah,
and now
men
it's
and
a
women
trans
in it.
group. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
now it's that.
and the thing is, like, I understand being
worse.
into goth girls because they all would wear corsets, which is kind of interesting because you don't see that very much. But the rest of this is like, I can talk to old women, but I have trouble attracting to attract. Yeah, here's a secret. Everyone feels.
Well, he also says I can talk to women who are safe, cashiers, waitresses, old ladies. You know what? A lot of waitresses are very attractive. You should ask waitresses out. A lot of them are going to school or doing interesting things. I've had dates and relationships with women that were waitresses. It's what are you putting people down for?
Yeah,
there's just so much putting people down here, and this including himself.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything. Even women he's attracted to, like, the best you can be is, I'm not at all shallow. Anyone who says they're not shallow, by the way, is always shallow.
They're shallow, always.
There's nothing, like, it's like when someone starts, before someone says anything, you go, listen, I'm not racist, but you know whatever they're about to say is bad, right?
You should say, I am shallow, okay? I am racist. I am shallow. You know, I realize that
here's
I have
the
those
thing.
weaknesses.
I think it's we
okay.
have this idea that it's not okay, that men like can't admit they care about looks. It's like, it's okay. I think my wife is pretty, like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being attracted to her, right? And it's like we have to pretend, oh, I don't care about looks. Like, I was watching this TV show. This is a really great show. We should have watched this one together, where they were like, it was 5 couples, and then one of the couples was siblings, and they were trying to figure out which couple was pretending to be a couple. And they asked one guy, they're like, oh, what's your favorite thing about your girlfriend? And he goes, her personality. And everyone goes, oh, there's the siblings. Like, it's such a giveaway. Because it's like,
he's not going to say about his sister, she's sexy.
I
Of course
know,
he's
but
not
this
gonna say
whole
that about his
idea of
sister.
like, it's like, exactly, it's such a giveaway. Because like, it's the other thing is like when a woman compliments your eyes as a man, no, that's women's version of saying you're ugly. So there's nothing else they can compliment because everyone's eyes look the same. Because nobody has fat eyes, right?
Well, it's subjective. Obviously, it's just a.
Yeah.
Okay. To close this one out.
Sure.
Okay. You should ask women out like cashiers and waitresses out. That's what you should do.
Get off the apps.
You have to realize.
Stop creating
Get off the
excuses.
apps.
Stop.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, you know this guy's doing a whole lot of badgering the witness. You know, five-fingered shove.
Well, and that's another word for PORN.
Yeah, because this guy must have a serious pornog collection because he is.
Of course he does.
All the things he's saying, because he literally.
Bad habit.
I never see attractive women anywhere.
Of course he doesn't,
seems
because he's
he has-
comparing them to what he's
like, I'm going
jerking
to
it to online.
concerts, art shows, and nobody's attractive enough for me to talk to them.
You know what? When you really get out of that, everyone's really attractive. There's so many attractive women everywhere. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm doing some work with Heather. We doing some recording as part of this book I'm writing for young people to build really successful life relationships. And I had never asked her this before, but I was telling her, oh, I see women as being I love women. Even if women are fat, there's something about women that's just amazing, you know? I said, how do you feel that way? Do you feel about men? And she says exactly the same thing. She just says, I just love men. And so that's a normal person, a healthy person. If you are not finding attractive women all over the place, it's because you're messing up yourself by using porn. That's what you said.
And I want to
Hit it on
pull.
the head.
He has this idea that's wrong, which is that anxiety is related to how objectively attractive someone is. It's not. Anxiety is related to how attractive you find someone. Give you an example. If you meet a celebrity that you're a big fan of, you will be nervous. If you meet a celebrity but you don't know they're a celebrity, you won't. The only thing that's changed is your belief about them, because that's happened to me.
Right.
So what's really happening is you go, oh, why am I nervous around this woman? She's kind of basic. And it's like, first of all, no, that's like an insult to her, but it's like, also, it's like, no, you're attracted to her. Like, who cares what you're attracted to? And this is one thing, this reminds me, because one time, a woman in a woman-woman relationship was asking me, she's like, listen, this girl was really, really good looking. And she was like, how do I tell my girlfriend that I like that she's ugly? And I was like, this is an interesting one, because that is quite the insult that you're trying to put a little snow around and say, here's a yellow snowball with a rock inside. Because she was like, oh, there's a disparity. And one was really attractive, one was really not. And she was like, but that's what I like about her. And I was like, this is going to be a tough one, because that is a hard way to say it.
Why did she have to say anything to her girlfriend?
Because the girlfriend was bringing it up. It was coming from the girlfriend. She's like, oh, you're so attractive. Like, the girlfriend's self-esteem was having an issue. Like, oh, you're so attractive. Why do you want to be with me? And she was like, my answer is, I like that you're ugly. And I was like, yeah, maybe find a different answer.
There's only one answer to that.
You're beautiful
The answer
to me.
is, I think you're beautiful.
Yeah.
You're absolutely beautiful.
Oh, so you don't always believe in the truth.
Well, that has to be the truth. If it's not the truth, you shouldn't be together. That's how you should see your partner.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that people say. This is the only time I heard it, where someone's like, I'm attracted to ugly people.
No.
It's such a weird thing to say. I've said things in my life that I regret, where I tried to compliment a woman and it came out wrong. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but one time I had quite a few drinks. I was hooking up with this girl, and I was like, oh my God, you're so sexy, like a drowned rat. And
Oh, no.
here's the shocking ending. It killed the mood, and she didn't sleep with me. And I thought,
I couldn't believe that.
that's the thing, is that, so in that moment, because it was like, I was thinking of like the rat from The Secret of Nim and kind of like digging on it. And it turns out that not everything you think is a compliment is actually a compliment to the woman. It's kind of like, there's other ways you can do this. Like, if you say to a woman, if she's like, what animal do I look like? If you say anything other than cat, she will never sleep with you. You cannot say, because every other animal is an insult. Like, if you say bear, oh my gosh. Or if you say bird, oh, you think I have a beak?
I spent 25 years researching why some men live to 110 or 120. Everyone thinks it's genetic. They think these people have special genes to live to 110 or 120, but I found that's not true. I found that all these men who are 100, 110, or 120, all of them are eating this one food. Grigoris Taz. He's drinking wine, he's having fun with friends, he walks 2 hilly miles a day in his native Greece. He's eating this one food. He's 110. Stanislav Kowalski. He starts jogging at the age of 104. He's eating this one food now. He's 110. He's running marathons. Arturo Licata from Italy. He loves pasta with ricotta cheese. He has a wonderful life. He eats this one food. He's going to be turning 112. Swami Svivananda. He sleeps on a board on a mat. He takes trains by himself. He is proven that he's 125, and he's eating this one food. Haj Musa from Turkey. He celebrates life every day. His wife's 110. They love each other so much. He and she eat this one food. He's said to be 130 years old. So why aren't we all eating this one food if it's so great? It's because the so-called experts tell us to avoid this one food. Remember Yul Gibbons, the guy that was on TV all those years ago? He was made famous by the cereal ads, right? Gibbons avoided this one food, and he passed at an age of 64. Nathan Pritikin, he was one of the greatest food gurus of all time. He avoided this one food, lived to age 69. And then there's Dr. Robert Atkins. He was the author of the all-time best-selling diet book. Passes, sadly, at the age of 72. So, who would you rather copy? Men like 110-year-old Grigoris Tahas, 125-year-old Swami Sivananda, 130-year-old Haji Musa, or these men who expired young despite their being the supposed experts. My name is Matt Cook. I'm an Amazon best-selling author, and recently I was interviewed by ABC News. When I discovered this one food, and all these men that I was studying, living to 100, 110, 120, I spent years figuring it all out, researching things, traveling around the world, and discovering what it was about this one superfood that keeps men so healthy and living such a long life. I found along the way that these men do things completely differently than anyone else. So I'm eating this one food now. I'm following everything they say, and I am hoping that I live to 120, and I think that I will. So I have these notes, these discoveries, years and years and years of research. I'm talking to my wife, Jody. She says, why don't you put that into a book and share your notes? So I spent a long time putting them all into a book I call Healthy to 120. I had a small number of copies printed out, and I'm going to mail one to your house. Go ahead, click on the link to claim your free copy. All you have to do is just help me out with shipping. That's it. Let me just tell you the discoveries that I've made and how I've adapted this one food in a lot of different areas of health. Listen closely. Blood sugar. Blood sugar is super, super important. I discovered that these very, very old men have perfect blood sugar. Mine was high, so I started doing what they're doing. I adjusted a little bit, like a tweak in how I have breakfast now. And my blood sugar is like 80, 85, 90 when I wake up every day, which is really good. I put that on page 276. Then there's fitness and exercise. None of these men work out in a gym, but they're super fit. I wanted to be fit. So what I did is I looked at what they do to stay active, and I found like a 10-minute routine, an activity I do every day, and I'm really fit, and I don't have to worry about setting foot in the gym. That's on page 316. Prostate health is key to men. Without it, we're sunk. These men have no pee problems, and I was having those problems. So I looked at what they do and their diet and all these sort of things, and I came up with this, I'll just call it a tapping, 90-second tapping thing. Keeping my prostate great. No more pee problems. Instead of getting up 3 times a night, I don't get up at all. My wife Jody gets to sleep, and we're much happier this way. Page 101. So let's take cholesterol. You know how a lot of guys worry so much about cholesterol? Well, these men virtually all have perfect cholesterol, and I think it's because their metabolic rate is high, and when your metabolic rate is high, you have good, normal cholesterol. So I figured out a way to maintain my metabolic rate. My cholesterol numbers are outstanding. My doctor said, you don't need to take anything. I don't know what you're doing, just keep doing it. I put that on page 162. So let's talk about weight. None of these men are fat, but none of them are on a diet either. They're eating the one food, remember. And I did a little bit of tweaking with the one food, and I was able to lose 38 pounds. I went from about 225 to 188. And I show you exactly what I did. No counting calories, no skipping meals, nothing like that. Super, super easy. I put that on page 250. Blood pressure is another thing. Now, blood pressure is something we don't think about. These long-lived men all have great blood pressure. I found that living at high altitude in the mountains, in the hills, helps blood pressure. But I came up with a very simple way, since I'm living on the flatlands, to have good blood pressure. Mine's 120/80 now, using an oxygen method that simulates altitude. It's real easy. It's got my blood pressure great and helped lots of other people. And I put that on page 139. So you can buy my book, Healthy 120, on Amazon for $29.95, or let me send it to you without charge. I'll just ask you if you can to help me out with the shipping. That would be super, super. Go ahead, click on the link, claim your copy right now. I have a limited number printed. Thank you so much for listening, for staying with me. God bless you and your family. I hope He is shining His light and His love on you. And as I like to tell everyone I meet, I'll see you at 120. I was watching an interview. It was a pretty interesting interview, but the guy had one thing very wrong. The question was, why is it that younger people are not having sex that much as they used to? Because the amount of people having sex, the younger people having sex, has just been declining. And he said, well, what do you think that is? And the guy's answer was that, well, he said, you know, when you have a lot of alcohol around, people shed their inhibitions and they tend to have a lot of sex. He said in previous generations, there was a lot of alcohol at parties and people would just have a lot of sex. But he said now they're not drinking as much, and that's why they're not having as much sex. And I thought, what a profoundly stupid argument that was. I couldn't believe that a serious scientific person would have an argument that stupid. Completely stupid. And we're talking about this person finding their partner ugly, or, you know, said they're attracted to ugly people. It's exactly like the previous question. You're attracted to ugly people because you're using porn too much and social media too much. And social media, really at all. Social media and porn result in our really seeing everybody very critically
So
instead of as attractive. And that's why they're not having that much sex, because they're not attracted to anybody, just like this guy.
yeah, I think that there's like other stuff going on as well societally, but I think that yeah, people develop a lot of parasocial relationships. I think simp culture is a big problem, which is where like you give money to women online, whether they're
Yeah.
street, and there's a whole spectrum of like I'm watching this woman play video games online all the way through. I'm watching this woman do naughty stuff online, and you form this relationship. And I'll tell you this:
It's a pseudo relationship, right? It's a
parasocial,
pseudo.
it's not like it's not real. It's imaginary.
Fake.
We
fake.
used to think that
Yeah.
people were crazy if they were like, "Oh, I watched the late night show and he's talking directly to me through the television. He's sending me messages." Now we don't think it's that crazy because now we can send the person money. So what happens is we found a new way to get into the friend zone, and so you have these parasocial relationships with, and the person's not real. So here's the thing that's really crazy. So I used to have a friend who was a photographer for Vogue, and I've dated some women who've been in Vogue. And for the cover model of Vogue, the photo shoot's thousands of dollars for the lights, the cameras. It's a lot.
Yeah, sure it is.
Then
Oh, yeah.
afterwards, minimum 15 hours of Photoshop. Okay.
Sure.
So the woman on the cover of Vogue doesn't look like that in real life. They do things like they lengthen the neck. So they'll make the neck like an inch longer, which is a huge difference. And then they reshape a whole, and this is someone who's already beautiful, right? So what you're seeing online or on Instagram, it's run through a filter or it's been photoshopped or it's been edited. That person doesn't even look like that. So what
No, they
happens
don't.
is you develop an attraction for like something that doesn't even exist. And that's really,
Yeah.
that's the problem with this type of thing, is that fantasy and reality are starting to merge in your mind, which is very dangerous. So, what's interesting is that like I hate the internet. If it wasn't my job, I would never be online. Like people are always shocked by that because it's my job, but it's like that's my point. And I don't know if gynecologists feel that same way at the end of the day. They're like, oh, the last thing I want to see is another.
I don't think so. I don't think they do feel that way. I think there's just a thing in humans that separates their work from their pleasure. I know what you mean exactly, but
I don't
I
derive
love the internet.
pleasure from like watching people's posts on Facebook or people's posts on Instagram. Maybe I would.
Well, I don't do that. I don't do that. But I do find great. We have so much work that we do that's wouldn't have been possible or very easy before the internet. But I'm very careful about avoiding anything that is exciting or arousing or anything like that, because that kills my sensitivity and my. Everybody should become super aware of what this is doing to them, and they aren't, because they're so into it. Once you detox and you've given it up for maybe 6 months, all these people are really attractive and your whole world is different. And you have this desire to be with people physically that you didn't have before. It's very easy to see why people aren't having sex, because they're on their phones every second. It's very simple. And they're on porn and they're on social media, and that's it. That's replaced human interaction.
Yeah.
So don't let it happen to you. If it's already happening, this is a time you can back off.
Yeah, you develop like a series of parasocial relationships. Like, oh, this is the person that I think I'm
a good
friends
way to
with. This
put
is
it.
the person that I think like knows how I feel. This is the person that I have intimacy with because I watch their videos when I touch myself. And you end up with. I thought it started like when I remember when Facebook came out and they would call your contacts friends, and people would say to me, like, how many friends do you have? And I'd be like 8, and they'd be like, well, I have 500. I'm like, no, you don't. But so it's not as popular now, but that really is how Facebook grew, is that people thought having more friends it was a really good trick. I'm sure a psychologist came up with it that made people go, oh my gosh, I don't have contacts, I have more friends. How many friends do you have? And because like
Or liking something, you really like it because you agree with something. That's a like. Doesn't make it. It's just these words. So anyway,
but it's powerful.
very few people have the courage to do this, and it's very, very difficult to do. We have some. We've developed some ways for people to do that. We call transformations, where people can leave porn behind and begin building this amazing attraction to real people. And there's things that can help a tremendous amount. The biggest thing that can really help is what we would call oxytocin building behaviors, like spending time in nature, taking care of a pet, gardening, And the one that's my favorite for anybody that is, if you're single and you want to break out of the social media porn trap, take ballroom or Latin dance lessons, group lessons. That's all you have to do. Take either Latin, which would be salsa, bachata, tango, or ballroom. It doesn't matter. And there's you're always with different girls. You're holding them. You're looking in each other's eyes because that's part of the deal. And it's just amazing how this helps as one step. That's a huge step of getting out of this porn, social media, horrible, crippling problem. Just do that. That's my biggest suggestion for you. And don't worry if you can't dance. You have 2 left feet. You're terrible at it. Doesn't matter at all. Also, there'll be a lot of women and not that many men. And they'll appreciate that you're there because you're a man. There's just nothing better for men who are emerging from the porn social media trap than taking ballroom or Latin dance, group dance lessons.
You just have to,
With that, yeah.
you just have to live your life outside of your phone, like live an actual life. Like don't live your life through a camera, through a phone, through a computer. All of that stuff is holding you back. You know, the more time you spend on your phone, the less time you spend actually doing things. And yeah, I think you're 100% right. Horchata is a good one. I had a friend who he went to like the Horchata national competition or whatever it's called, or national event, and he was like, it was like 80 women for each guy. It was just like
It's so sexy. It's so sexy.
and it's not
Oh my God.
salsa's kind of popular, but horchata, there's so much better to do. Just because there's no guys doing it, it's a huge opportunity. Like you can be full on hunchback, it doesn't matter because the odds are in your favor because there's so many more women than men.
That's true. Absolutely. Ballroom or Latin is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
So next time we're going to talk about red flags, green flags, some additional ways of that are a really cool way of asking a girl out where you don't risk any rejection, and a real way that you can actually get back together with somebody if you want to. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. And please, if you haven't already, like and hit subscribe because we really need that. Hit that bell icon. And we have these other 2 videos that I would suggest that you watch right now. I think you'll love it. And we'll talk to you next week.